this is a real treat for you and for us. We're excited because Congressman Drew Ferguson is with us from Southside Atlanta, our old stomping ground. And this was kind of Newt Gingrich's old district, and it was Lynn Westmoreland's district. And it's always good to talk with old friends from GA. And I know the Speaker Burkholder was tuning in today to hear Drew Ferguson. So, Speaker, good to have you with us. And we think you should run for Congress, but he says, no way, I'm not going up there in that swamp. But anyway, Congressman, great to have you.
Glad to be with you this morning.
Okay, so we were really excited. The Congressman remembers the Beacon newspaper that Ann and I owned. I don't know. I guess we would call it a labor of love until it destroyed our family and finances. But but everybody knew the Beacon, right?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it was something that we all knew. It was, I'm a huge fan of local media.
That was local media.
That was local media at its best. So.
Yeah, that was. We exposed corruption, the Roswell police, and we did this huge high school football thing annually that went like about 150,000 copies we printed up. But it was a lot of fun. But we could not survive the recession. And I'll never forget the day. I always tell the story when our local bank, we had a local community bank that was financing our company, and we had a line of credit, which is what we use to meet payroll and everything, and things that go up and down cash flow wise. And I remember the guy called me up during the bank crash, and he said, I have to eliminate your line of credit because I'm out of alignment with whatever it was going on back then. And I'm like, well, that's going to put me out of business. And he says, I love you, but the alternative is they'll come in and shut us down. I got to do this to everybody. And I had like a 1-day notice. A lot of people forget about how bad that meltdown was.
Yeah, the meltdown was bad, and I think and it created such a problem with community banks,
exactly,
and smaller banks, and the federal government went to a one-size-fits-all model, and quite candidly, I can tell you, I was going through the process of rebuilding a community, and one of the challenges that we had was lack of access to capital, and it really did hurt small businesses. And I can tell you the thing that I learned over my career as a small-town mayor, as a dentist, and living in a community that lost its manufacturing base, I can tell you the most important thing that we focus on up here are jobs. And that is why the USMCA is such a vitally important piece of legislation that we've got to get passed.
Well, why can't we get it passed? Nancy Pelosi has the votes, right? There's 31 Democratic congressmen that won in Trump districts. Many of those are going to vote for it. You have the votes to pass it. It's going to vote in the Senate. Congressman Ferguson, why does it just sit on her desk? I mean, I keep asking this question. We can't get a straight answer.
I'm becoming more optimistic that it's going to get done. I had the pleasure of traveling to Canada with the Chairman Richie Neal. The Ways and Means Committee met with Justin Trudeau, their foreign minister, had a chance to meet with their trade minister. The thing that I kept hearing is that they want to get this done. I think they're trying to find a way. There are two things, John, that I think that they're trying to solve. Number one, how do they go through this impeachment process and legislate at the same time? And they haven't proven that they can do that. So I think that there's a little sense of determination that they can take the president's legislation and do something with it. And look, that's a great thing. No matter if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, this trade deal is good for America and it needs to get done. Here's the second thing. They are really focused on the labor provisions and the labor enforcement provisions in here. And this is the best agreement that we've ever seen. If you are involved in the labor movement, you should actually be jumping up and down and demanding that this gets passed. Adds a 0.5 point to our GDP for a generation. Okay, 0.5 basis point to our GDP. That's good that is great for the American worker. The second thing about this is that we are an integrated economy with Mexico and Canada. You look at the supply chains. If you're a Teamster, you want this. If you're an auto worker, you want this,
right,
because it builds sustainability into it. I tell you, when I see labor leadership standing up and saying that this is not a good deal, number one, it's a heck of a lot better than what we've got right now. And number two, I think every provision, labor enforcement provision that we need is in here. So I want them to explain how this gets better. And look, if there's a reasonable pathway, we're all for it.
Sure. Well, look, you have a divergence now, as you know, Congressman Drew Ferguson, between labor and union members and high-ranking union leadership. I mean, there's a real disconnect there. And that's why, a state like ours, we live in Virginia, which has a right to work rule, but we're a burgeoning union state because it's voluntary. We have people that want to join the union, and their leadership is much more responsive to the membership in a right to work state simply because it's voluntary. You can opt out. So then, therefore, union leadership has to be responsive to its members. When you make it mandatory or compulsory, then the leadership takes your money. They don't really give a rat's tail what you say because you have to give them the money. You have to be a member in order to work. Big difference.
Yeah, and look, I think it's pretty remarkable that most of the American workers right now side with the President of the United States. Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, you've said. I think you
absolutely
you have said this very clearly. Rank and file members,
right,
that are out there working every single day are on the side with the President. I had a great meeting in my office, in my district office, with the local Teamsters group. And it was really interesting. They came in, as about 7 or 8 folks.
In Washington or in
Newnan? In Newnan, Georgia, at our district office down there. They came in, and it was really interesting. This one older guy looked at me, and he said, now listen, he said, the guy over here, and he pointed to the union leader, he said, this guy over here, he's a Democrat. But he said, the rest of us, we're with the President. And I thought that was pretty remarkable. This is a local Teamster member of the union that is sick, that is calling out his boss for being with Pelosi, and they're saying, don't listen to him, we're with the President. So I've got firsthand experience in seeing that. But bottom line, here's what's got to happen. We got to get to a point coming up, I think probably when we get back from Thanksgiving recess, where we have got to have enough Democrats put pressure on Pelosi to ask for this bill or to allow it to go through. I think it gets there because for 2 reasons. Number one, fundamentally, it's good for the country. That's really, really important. The second thing is that, as you've pointed out, you've got a lot of Democratic members that have campaigned on being responsible, that have been moderate, middle of the road, to get something done. Not one of their major pieces of legislation will get signed into law. They can talk about all of these messaging bills that they've passed like something's actually going to happen, but the American people know that nothing is getting done up here. This is the one chance that they've got in some of these districts to go back and say, hey, I got something done. And you know what? This deal is good enough. I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat. We want you to vote for it because we think it's good for the American worker.
So they're going to have to go to the voters in 2020 with what? Nothing. I mean, they have nothing to go to the voters with. Impeachment, which is going to fail. I mean, what do the Democrats go to? What does Pelosi go to the voters with in 2020?
You know, that's a good question right now because I don't think that there's a record of success in the House right now.
They've done nothing.
They have literally done nothing. They have spent all of their time investigating the president, the Mueller investigation, now this ridiculous witch hunt that they're going down with impeachment. I think most people, when I go back home and go back to the 3rd District of Georgia, number one, if they're paying attention at all, they look at it like it's a joke. And they fundamentally understand that it's unfair. What's happening to the president right now should not happen to any American citizen. And I think when I talk to my folks back home, and we describe it in the sense that, could you imagine being a defendant in a courtroom where you had a defense attorney that wasn't allowed to say a single word, and you had to listen to a prosecutor tell a jury that was made up of folks like Max Rose from New York who said, if he is innocent, all he has to do is prove it. Can you imagine how you would feel? And that's exactly what's happening to the President of the United States. And if they'll do it to the President, God knows what they do to you.
You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, trucking the truth across America. I'm your Godzilla of the truth. We're live at the White House today. We're chatting with Congressman Drew Ferguson from Noonan, Georgia. He replaced General Lynn Westmoreland, who retired. Hey, Congressman, Noonan, Georgia. Okay, so this summer, my son is on a high school travel baseball team, and we played a baseball game at Noonan Stadium.
Yes.
And it was, we went by and looked at the football stadium. I just got to draw this picture. The Noonan High School football stadium is like going to a college game in the SEC, right? Huge stadium, artificial turf, luxury suites, boxes. I mean, what a beautiful stadium that is. And the baseball stadium was gorgeous.
Yeah, football.
It's big.
High school athletics is huge in Georgia, as it is many places around the country. But the Noonan High School is referred to as the Big House,
That's what they call it.
And the Noonan Cougars, and they defend the Big House. But it really is a remarkable facility. Great environment, great place to watch a game, great rivalries that are in that area, and it's a lot of fun.
It seemed like most of it was done with private funding because they had companies' names on it. People, all those boxes up there, the suite boxes up there. It seemed like
you've got a lot of private dollars that flow into that, but also they use something called a special purpose local option sales tax, which is something that the voters vote on. And so,
in the local community,
and so
that's right. They were telling me that.
And the
the
local community decided that taxing themselves 1 cent was worth it to do these various projects.
That's
with.
right.
So I think if you're going to tax, I want to be able to say I'm taxing myself.
And it was just the local. That's right, because I remember asking about it because I was so shocked by how gorgeous the facilities were, and I remember one of the. Because the Noonan team was there participating. I remember one of the parents saying, well, we voted for this.
Yeah.
And if you're a resident of Noonan, you have an up or down vote, and we voted, penny's worth it to get all this for our kids and the future after we leave. So I thought that was interesting. It's definitely a plebiscite way of doing government.
Yeah, it's
right?
Keep it local.
You don't get that in Washington.
No, you don't. You don't. This is. So I'm in my second term, and
you like it?
Yeah, I am. I think it's. I'm having a good time with it. I enjoy it. I try to keep the perspective. I'm one of 435 people in the whole world that get to do what I do every day. So we should treat the job with respect. We should be thoughtful in it. We should enjoy it. And the day that you don't enjoy it and can't put your best foot forward, you need to go home. And so right now I'm still having a good time with it. Despite a lot of the nonsense, and truly it is nonsense of what's happening on the other side of the aisle right now with the Democratic Socialists. There's still a desire to have meaningful conversation on tax, on trade, on health care. And it's so frustrating because what we've seen in a very short period of time, John, is we will pass bipartisan legislation out of committee, and Pelosi strips it and puts in partisan legislation. We have seen that on retirement savings. We saw this on prescription drug pricing,
right.
And what we've seen it on federal background check conversations. Nothing bipartisan is going to get through the House of Representatives. Pelosi doesn't want it. She wants partisan votes so that she can stand up and say Republicans voted against this. That's not the way to govern. That's not the way to lead, and it's a poor example to set for the rest of the country. And I tell you what, I think the American people are going to see through that. At the end of the day, they like things that are fair. They like transparency. And by God, they like results. And who's doing that for them right now? Donald J. Trump.
Congressman, how is impeachment playing in your district?
It's not going over very well. People, number one, see that it is in fact a sham. They're much more interested in us passing the USMCA than they are impeachment. They are concerned about about issues around the kitchen table, and they are quite candidly, now that they've seen how it's unfolding, the voters that are paying attention to it, they're pretty mad about it. Mm-hmm. They see it as an unfair process, and they're pushing back against it. And they simply, the support for the president there has not wavered.
Has the media been fair to you, Congressman Ferguson?
We don't worry about whether or not they're fair. We go out and we do our job. We do it in a fair and honest way. And I'm sure that I'm sure that there's some folks in the media that don't want to see us be successful, but that goes with the territory. Every now and then I get the pleasure of coming on the show with someone like you and get treated fairly. So, but no, I as someone that is a big advocate for local media and local markets, we have to have an honest and transparent media. They've got to be the fair arbiter in all of this. You have to have someone that is willing to go in and do the investigations, to get down to the truth, to do it the right way for the American people. And what's so frustrating right now is you don't see that at the national level at all. There is not one single media outlet out there that I've seen that has really done a good faith effort of digging into every single part of these topics that we're discussing right now. And the biggest loser in all of that is the American people.
Congressman Drew Ferguson, 3rd District, Georgia, that's the Noonan, Georgia area, just southwest Atlanta, former district of Lynn-Westmoreland, and then Newt Gingrich before Gingrich had to move to Roswell, where we lived, and he represented us for a very long time. Congressman, just a couple more questions, and then we're going to let you take off. The president is going to get impeached, no question. 2 counts. They don't have anywhere near 67 votes in the Senate. But what are they impeaching him for?
You tell me. I have no idea. I mean, I go through this. We look at it. I am sure that they will have some sort of charge that they come up with. That is, I mean, if they're going down this road right now, and they are pushing as hard as they can on this phone call with the Ukrainian president, I mean, it's a dead end. So I think that they're going to come back and probably do it around some sort of obstruction charge, which, if I were the president, I wouldn't participate in this sham process either. Right. I have no legal protections in it. I have no political protections in it. You're going to walk down into that. You're going to walk down into the skiff with Schiff and give a deposition in that bed of snakes? I don't think so. Mm-hmm. So again, if that's the way, there's nothing that's been done, that's happened on the phone call with the Ukrainian president, and you're gonna say, oh, he's obstructing justice because he won't come into a sham process. Good luck with that with the American people. I think the president comes out of this in pretty good shape.
Is this going to backfire on Pelosi?
I think so. I think it will.
All right. Final thing is, I know you have to take off. Georgia. We spent a lifetime there, raised our 2 older children there. Is President Trump going to carry Georgia again in 2020?
Absolutely. Georgia is still a conservative state. It is right of center, and if you have with good candidates and hard work, it's still a Republican state. And I think the president does well there. I think Senator David Perdue does well there. You got to remember, our
Perdue's going to get reelected.
Brian Kemp, who is our governor now, was up against the world. Okay, he had Obama.
No chance.
He had Obama and Holder spending tens of millions of dollars against him. A rigged campaign by Stacey Abrams. It was like nothing you've ever seen before, and he still won. And that tells me the state is still a conservative state. And I can tell you this: the voters in Georgia, they're highly motivated. They're with the president. They're going to turn out. They want to support our president. I'll tell you real quickly a transformation that I've seen with the voters down there. We used to jokingly say that Donald Trump is neither Republican or Democrat. He's America's middle finger to D.C. I mean, really.
I love that.
But it's true. Right. It's true. People are so tired of what's been happening up here, whether it's been in the bureaucracy, whether it's an administration, Congress. People are just tired of it.
Right.
Our people were fine for him to come up here and blow it up, okay? And that was his number one mission. But here's the change. They want him to be successful now and rebuilding the country. And there's a difference between blowing up D.C. and quite candidly rebuilding the nation. And our folks want the president to be successful, and they're with him. They're with me. They're with David Perdue. We feel good about that election. It's not going to come easy. We're going to go out there and fight every single day because we know it's the right thing to do for the country. America is not a socialist country, and we're not going to let a small group of far-left liberal ideologues take over this country.
Can you win the 6th district back?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Preferred candidate?
Any Republican that gets through there is preferred to someone that is going to support the socialist agenda of Nancy Pelosi, as Lucy McBath has.
Our buddy just dropped out. Beach, he was our buddy. He dropped out.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that.
Beach dropped out. So he was raising money, but I guess he had some internals, or I don't know. I haven't talked to him. I
have no idea. Good guy, served the state well, and wish him well.
Now, when were you in the State House?
I wasn't.
You were not in the State House.
I was not. I came right out of local office. Was the mayor of West Point, Georgia, for 8 years, and had a family dental practice down there. And
did you have to beat Lynn's daughter? What did she run for?
No, she ran for a state house seat in a special election just a few months ago.
Did she win?
No, she did not. She did not.
Nepotism doesn't fly in Georgia.
No. People are very independent down there. But I will tell you,
thanks for filling me in on all.
Yeah,
all the detail.
But Georgia's a great place, as you well know. It's a great state.
Now we love Georgia. When we were there.
One of the reasons that we're fighting so hard on this USMCA is for
it's
Georgia.
going to really help Georgia.
Georgia's
tremendous
economy,
dairy farmers, and
manufacturing.
Right.
Port of Savannah, our transportation network. I mean, we are the logistics hub for the Southeast. It's the USMCA and the work that the president and his team have done on this. It's going to benefit our citizens greatly.
All right. Now, when was the last time you talked to Representative Austin Scott?
Over the weekend.
Tell him John Fredericks said hi.
I will do it.
Yeah,
I will do it.
Sometimes I lose track, but he ran for governor.
Yeah,
as
I remember that
back then, and we had him on our show all the time. He did that walk, like a 1,000-mile walk or something. I don't know how he did that, but back in the day, he used to come on our show all the time. In fact, we sponsored a debate back then that I thought he did marvelously at. But all good stuff. Congressman Drew Ferguson, we have to have you back. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. Enjoyed being with y'all and appreciate the opportunity this morning.
See, and this is the thing. Small mayor of a town, comes to Washington. I mean, I just love that. That's why you appreciate local media so much.
I do. Right. It's important. But thank you.
All right, Congressman Ferguson, you're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, live at the White House.